I'm Jennifer Malloway. I'm a dog trainer, and today we are going to talk about dogs in the bed. Is it good? Is it bad? What do we need to know? First of all, Kevin, I am not going to yell at you. I'm surprised you would say that. I don't yell at anybody ever. No, actually, first order of business, I want to make sure that I say this at the top because things are changing. Actually, things are different today anyway. We had a weird scheduling thing today with Suchi, which is why we're talking later. But anyway, after this week, my schedule is going to change permanently. So instead of our Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 o'clock, we're going to be going live now Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. So just want to give everybody a heads up that that's coming next week. But before that, you don't want to miss this Wednesday's show because I have a guest coming on to talk about service dog training, and it's going to be really, really interesting. I have a lot to learn, and I'm excited to talk to our guest on Wednesday, 4 o'clock Pacific. So that's it for the schedule updates. Let's talk about sleeping with dogs in the bed. It's so interesting. You get totally different sides. If you Google this, you will see like 5 reasons you shouldn't sleep with your dog, or 5 reasons you definitely should sleep with your dog. It's kind of funny, honestly. So let's just talk about some of those things. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to tell you what to do. There's not a right answer. There's just, here are all the things you may want to consider what's right for you. So yeah, we're going to talk about the upsides, we're going to talk about the downsides, and of course, we are definitely going to talk about some of the myths out there, because there are a lot of myths. Even the like, oh, this article was so good, I read it, and then I was like, wait, why would you say that? That's so not true. So we're going to get into that fun stuff too. So let me ask you guys. So apparently, about half of American dog owners choose to sleep with their dogs. So we're, give or take a couple percent, we're pretty much split down the middle. So I'm curious what you guys think. Kevin says, definitely dogs in the bed. Dizzy sleeps in my bed. But how about the rest of you? If you have a dog, I assume if you're watching me talk about dog stuff, you probably have a dog. Or maybe you're getting a dog. But what do you guys think? Do you think, do we like dogs in the bed? Do we not? Maybe tell me this. If you do sleep with dogs in the bed, how many dogs do you have in the bed? Is it just one, or are we talking like a bed full of dogs? And I will also want to know, is there a partner that we have to consider here? So if we've got dogs in the bed, does your partner like dogs in the bed also? Does the partner approve of the dogs in the bed? Or if the dogs have been kicked out, is the partner the reason? Yeah, I want to know, like, what is the dynamic in your home? Because yeah, we're kind of all over the map here. But yeah, I mean, heck, humans have been allowing dogs into their homes and sleeping next to them for centuries. So clearly this has been working to some degree. But it can also cause some problems. So let's start with the benefits, shall we? These have been studied. There are scientists who found results on both sides. Like I said, there are benefits, I mean, just of pet ownership in general. And they believe that if owning a dog, petting a dog, or hanging out with a dog has benefits such as, lowering your blood pressure, easing anxiety, psychological and physiological benefits to being near dogs, it only makes sense to extrapolate that to, well, if you're next to them all night, likely those benefits are gonna extend into that time that we're spending throughout the night with them, right? And this is what they found. They found that for many dog owners who choose to sleep with their dogs, they do they find that their anxiety is lessened. Their heart rate can be reduced. For people suffering from PTSD, experience fewer nightmares when they're sleeping next to a dog. Many people feel an increased sense of comfort, safety, and security when you've got a dog next to you all night. You know, historically, you might also have benefited from just their warmth, right? Or maybe even protection from evil spirits. So it offers us a increased well-being, increased comfort and security, having a dog next to us during the day or at night. So these are the plus sides of having a dog sleep in the bed with you, yeah? Actually, and there were a couple other things I read as I was looking into this. They have found that for some infants who spend time near animals during infancy and toddlerhood, that those kids experience fewer allergies later in life. So that's a potential benefit as well. Welcome, Karen. Hi. Help us out. Do you guys, Karen and Jesse, both of you, let us know. Do you guys have dogs sleeping in the bed with you? And how many dogs get to share the bed, if so? I'm taking my own poll here. But yeah, oh, and let's see. And for some people, if some of these other disadvantages don't get in the way, having an animal sleep next to you could also potentially have the benefit of increasing your oxytocin, which can thereby increase your what's it called? It's increases the theta brainwaves associated with your REM sleep. So there's potential that it could increase the deeper sleep that you experience, resulting in feeling more well rested in the morning. For some people, it's not for everybody, but this just goes to show you that it really comes down to, you know, what's right for you and what's right for your dog. We're going to talk about some considerations for your dog here in a minute. Jesse, one lab gets to share the bed. Okay. And Karen says, mine sleep with me every night. Both of them. Okay. All right. So far, that's all of us who say yes, dogs in the bed. But I mentioned earlier, you guys, that according to polls, about 50% of dog owners in the US say that they share their bed with dogs. So we're split half and half pretty much. And there are some benefits. I mean, honestly, the main benefit, frankly, is we like it, right? I mean, we probably wouldn't allow it if we didn't like it. Some of us may have just given up fighting a losing battle, but yeah, for the most part, like, we let dogs in the bed because we like it. And I will tell you this, Kevin, I'm certainly not here to tell anybody they shouldn't have a dog in the bed. I'm here to share some reasons why maybe you would choose not to, if, you know, XYZ. Yeah, Karen, thank goodness my 2 fur babies are small. And that's that. So that's a really good point to bring up. So what do we need to consider if you are deciding, like, do we allow dogs in the bed or do we not? Actually, I mean, let me ask you this, you guys. Was this like a decision that you made at some point? You're like, okay, should we not? Yes, we're going to let dogs in the bed. Was it like an actual conscious decision, or did it just kind of happen? The dogs just smushed their way in there and the rest is history kind of thing. Because David and I, we did talk about this, and funnily enough, I think David wanted to make it a no dogs in the bed rule, for reasons. He had good reasons. It was just not a rule that I was able to really stick to, mainly because I like dogs in the bed. Not to say, I mean, yeah, he had good reasons. There are plenty of good reasons not to want a dog in the bed. But yeah, sometimes, I don't know. Jesse says, at one time a few years ago, there were between 2 and 3 labs sharing the bed. Oh my gosh. Hopefully you have a big bed. Jesse, is there, how many humans are sharing the bed when there was 2 or 3 labs? And did the number of humans affect the number of labs allowed in the bed? So yeah, to Karen's point, one of the main things we really want to consider if if you're deciding whether or not to sleep with a dog in the bed is how much space do you have? How big is your bed compared to how big is your dog, or potentially how many dogs and humans are you trying to keep happy in this situation? Kevin says, let's see, the first day my dog came to her new forever home, I went to bed, she laid on the floor, I said, come on, she jumped up, and the rest is history. Okay. But you had dogs before, Kevin, am I right? Like, she wasn't your first dog, or were you just so excited, like, I have a dog, I want her in the bed? Oh, interesting that you say your first day, though. That's oh gosh, there's so many things I want to talk about, and I can't say it all at once. I could just blah. Let's see. Karen says, Candy sleeps behind me and Jackson sleeps above my husband's head. With Candy, when we first got her, she was scared and nervous, so I put her in bed with me. Okay, that's cute. And Jesse says, 1 human in a queen-size bed. Okay. And Kevin had dogs before. Okay. So yeah, I imagine, like, once you get into a pattern with one dog, it kind of rolls over for each subsequent dog. But lucky her, right? I mean, I'm trying to think back now, like, of all the, because I did dog sitting and dog boarding for years and years, like full time. And I'm trying to think back if there ever was a dog who preferred not to sleep in the bed. Like, of all the dogs that I've ever known, I would say darn near 99-100%. Given if it was totally up to them, they would have chosen to share the bed. Anybody ever have a dog? Like, not even just current dogs, but does anybody have a dog who prefers not to share the bed? I know I've got at least one friend whose dog prefers to sleep not even in the bed, but in the other room. So they're out there, but all the ones I've known are like, they like being next to us, we like being next to them. It's nice. But there are, I said we'd get to the downsides, right? And the downsides are significant. Like, if they're there at all, they can pose some serious problems. But you probably know if you've got one of these problems. But here's what happens. The biggest one, at least, no, I don't know. They're all on equal footing for me, or in my opinion, rather, is when it affects your quality of sleep. That's a pretty big deal. At least, I mean, I think it's a big deal for everybody, but for me, I was like, I really prioritize sleep quality. I am very, like, ask David, I am all about the sleep hygiene, going to bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time every morning, and making sure that the temperature and the sound and the light levels are all this. And I'm not so good about shutting down screens a certain time before bed, but, like, I still think about it because sleep hygiene is very important. And if your animal is affecting your sleep, then that has some very serious impacts. Let's see. Jesse says the dogs picked to sleep in the bed. Karen says 2 humans and 2 fur babies in a queen bed. I told my husband that I want a king-size bed to have some room for me. The 3 of them like to hog the bed. And that does tend to happen, right? Dogs, like, it doesn't matter how small they are. They tend to, like, they just somehow take up all the space. It's funny. I think we just love them so much that we let it happen, whereas we could easily shift it the other way. But it's out of love, I think. So yeah, hopefully you get that king-size bed, because, man, yeah, not having enough space to sleep will definitely affect your sleep quality if you can't get comfortable. Or, if our dogs move, like, we have different, naturally, dogs and humans have different sleep cycles. So we are monophasic sleepers, while dogs are polyphasic sleepers, meaning that we go to bed and we sleep in one go for the most part, most of us, whereas dogs tend to sleep in shorter phases, which means that they are going to be potentially getting up and down more throughout the night. And if their movement wakes you up, pulls you out of that REM sleep, you're not going to be getting all of the benefits of the sleep that we're supposed to get. And how many of us, actually really curious about this too, how many of you like wake up feeling rested? Because for me, it doesn't happen like once every couple of years, probably. I wake up and I'm like, that was a wonderful night of sleep. I'm ready for the day. Like it used to happen all the time. And I don't know, at some point it was just like, I don't know anymore how to get a good night's sleep. Luckily, Dizzy's a pretty good sleeper. I don't know if he gets up at night or not. But maybe I should like put up a camera or something. those are so creepy when you see videos. But I'm curious. But anyway, so they a lot of dogs might be getting up more than we humans, and if that's really affecting your sleep, that can have an impact. And we might not know it, right? Like if it wakes us up, to that stage where you kind of like you wouldn't remember that you woke up, you're still getting affected, but you're not going to remember it. That's a problem. So when it affects your sleep, that's a serious issue for me. If I found out that Dizzy was really affecting my quality of sleep, I'd probably have to kick him out. We'd have to change the rules, and that can be difficult. But affecting your quality of sleep is not the only reason that you might want to consider not having a dog in the bed. Other reasons are allergies, but maybe not in the way you think. So, hey, bud. Welcome. Do you want to come up and say hi? Two paws. Come up, say hi. You gotta say hi to the people. Oh, he needs a chair again. So allergies. And I'm not just talking about being allergic to dogs, right? Like some people, if they're severely allergic to dogs, they wouldn't have it. But a lot of people are allergic and they still have a dog because they love them so much. They just choose to deal with the effects, or they take medication for it, But if the dog is in the bed, that's hey, hi Goose. Having them in the bed is gonna make people with dog allergies have more of a reaction. But here's the thing: dogs spend most of their day on the floor, and I don't know how clean your floors are, guys, but dogs are like little. I mean, they're laying on the floor. If you've got any amount of dust, mold, anything, dogs are like little Swiffer sweepers, right? Like they just pick things up. And so whatever's on them throughout the day is coming into the bed. If they went out to the yard and they're rolling around in the dirt and they're getting pollen on them, if you've got seasonal allergies, guess what? They're bringing that stuff into the bed. And that, like I used to have a cat and she would sleep she would sleep pretty much like on my head, and she was an indoor-outdoor cat, and like that kind of thing like can really cause more problems, and you might not automatically connect that to the dog in the bed because you're just like, oh, seasonal allergies, it's springtime, but you could be suffering less if that's a thing that you're getting affected by. But you could also help. Hey, Sarah, I am back. You could also prevent this by, brushing your dog out before bed, bathing them more often, cleaning the floors more often, that kind of thing, and not make it that big of a problem. So again, still not saying don't have your dog in the bed. It's just if these are big deals to you, you can help yourself out. Let's see. Jessie says, my female lab sleeps under the covers during the winter, but during summer she likes the floor. Yeah, that's awesome. So heat, like for a lot of dogs, some dogs might choose cooler places to sleep if they get too hot. So those are going to be dogs who might opt not to share the bed sometimes. But I think I love when dogs choose to sleep under the covers. I think that's the cutest thing in the world. I've never had a dog that did that, but I think it's awesome. Yeah, Sarah, no, like I wouldn't have made that connection either had I not like done the research, right? And I am a person who suffers from seasonal allergies. Well, I did in California. I haven't so much up here. But mold is a problem for me. Mold affects me quite a bit. And so maybe moving my dizzy brushing routine to right before bed, tack it onto my, oh, what do they call that? When you add, like, you've got other habits and other routines, and if you want to start a new habit, you just kind of tack it onto the either end of your other routines to help you build a new habit. I want to say like habit stacking or something like that. There's a term for this. So maybe something like that could help mitigate allergy stuff if I want to keep dizzy in the bed. Let's see. So quality of sleep, there's allergies, there's other, hygiene considerations, and this is where I think people who don't have pets, who think that sleeping with them is gross, or people who do have them but choose not to, this is often a big consideration, is the fact that, dogs are dogs and they do sometimes bring things home, parasites, ticks and fleas and frankly just, other bacteria and viruses that are communicable that we're not aware of. Those risks, I think, are much more rare than the possibility of them just affecting your sleep or bringing in pollen and allergens and things like that. But it's a thing that can happen. Oh, interesting, Sarah. She says, our soil here has a lot of mica in it, so it sparkles. My cats love to roll on the sidewalk, grass, and dirt, so my bed looks like it has glitter on it. That's so funny. I don't know anything about mica. Does that have any, is that anything you need to be worried about as a human? Probably not if we're putting it in the ground, but it can make your bed look pretty. I don't know, if you want to wake up being sparkly, looking like you've been to the club or something. That's funny. But yeah, they totally bring stuff into the bed. So I should, oh dear, Diz. You can't, oh my gosh. He stole my mouse off the desk. Yeah, so might want to up our cleanliness game, watch the sheets more often, if these are concerns of yours. Other than that, just standard dog things, drooling in the bed, incontinence. Let's get into some of the considerations that we might want to think about our dog. In most cases, I think when people are talking about sharing a bed with a dog, we think about how it affects us, right? But how does it affect them? Okay, Sarah, no, mica isn't dangerous. It just indicates what's coming into the bed that I can't see. Exactly. So there's always things we can't see. And that's just my point. It's like, I know like weird stuff happens, but it's rare. It's probably not enough to like make me decide, oh, I'm going to kick my dog out of the bed. But reminding myself might help me just, sweep the floor more often, brush the dog more often. I don't know. Yeah. I need to up my cleaning game. Gross. But anyway, yeah. So what about the dog? If dogs are peeing in the bed, that's obviously a big problem. So I generally don't recommend letting dogs in the bed if they are puppies, meaning, they're not going to be fully house trained for a while yet, or even older dogs who might be losing some control of their bladder, or any adult dog who just isn't fully house trained. It's probably not a good idea to share the bed until they are, because things happen, and if it's not happened to you, I don't recommend it. It's not really fun to like have to clean that out of your bed, and if you don't have a mattress protector, then it's really upsetting when your nice new mattress, like, oh my God, I think a mattress was probably the first purchase I ever made that where I was like, I feel like an adult. I purchased a mattress. To then have that peed on would be like, that's awful. That's not, mattresses are not cheap. So don't bring, I wouldn't recommend bringing an unpotty trained dog into the bed at night. But for the dog, so it's especially, this is anytime you're evaluating like choices about life with your dog, there are going to be special considerations for the very young and the very old. So with puppies and elderly dogs, how about the cumulative impact of jumping up and down off the bed? Size of the dog also matters. Very large and very small dogs are going to have more of an impact on their joints from hopping up and down off the bed. So think about, what's the situation with your dog, and how high is your bed? For some, it's pretty low. It's not probably a big deal. But I've been learning a lot about cumulative impact on joints from our learning about dog parkour, dog sports. And this absolutely applies to getting on and off the bed, because if they're jumping up and down, that's probably happening, at least once a day. Probably more though, if we're being realistic. But yeah, if a very small dog is jumping up and down off the bed, that's a huge height difference compared to their body size, which means that's a lot of impact on their joints. And if they're doing that every day, over the years, they could end up with more joint pain, and body pain in dogs translates often into some behavior problems. And you could prevent them from having to go through that at all. And it's not one of those things that you're going to know right away. So that's why we're talking about it. But it's the same for bigger dogs too. The height to the bed height to their height ratio isn't going to be as much, but they've got a lot more body weight usually, which translates to greater impact. So same situation there. I would especially be careful with puppies. So now we've got one reason, the potty training, not to maybe have puppies sleep in the bed, but another reason that if you're letting them hop up and down, a dog's growth plates, their bones, are not fully done forming until they're about 18 months old. A little bit longer for older dogs. But if they are to sustain an injury, whether that's acute or like smaller accumulative injury to their bones during that first 18 months of life, it could have more of an impact on the way that their bones and body grow as they age, right? So I don't recommend letting if you're going to let them in the bed, at least give them another way up and down. This is for the puppies. This is for the older dogs or larger dogs. Give them a ramp, give them stairs, or pick them up if they're okay with being picked up. But the jumping up and down all the time it can really stress their joints. Another thing to maybe try, if you are going to let them jump up and down, is consider the floor that they're jumping down onto, right? Jumping down onto a slippery surface, again, is going to have more risk of injury than jumping onto a padded or non-slip surface. So you can help your dog stay safe throughout their years, avoid injury by making some minor adjustments if you do choose to let them sleep in the bed. I missed this comment from Kevin. He says, mine sleeps under the covers in between my legs, winter, summer, spring, fall. I sleep better in the winter. Yeah. Oh, so I had a cat who would sleep between my legs, and I loved it. I'm not a sleeper who moves a lot, and so it worked out really, really well for us. And but I am a person who's always cold, so it's just nice to have that that extra body warmth. I really love it. I appreciate that. But yeah, this was a little kitty and not maybe a northern breed dog like maybe a husky, or I mean there's a lot, and any Samoyed, any dog who's got a lot of floof, those are ones that I usually tend to see who might choose to sleep on the floor or elsewhere when sharing space gets too warm. At least in whatever climate you're in, and if it's not, the tundra. So let's see. We've got yeah, the jumping up and down can be a lot for dogs. What other health considerations might we want to think about? Nope. Yeah, I think it really does come down to those three things. The things that they're bringing into the bed. I don't have anything in my hands, bud. Did you have something to say? Nope. Okay. Yeah, so things that they're bringing into the bed, their health and bodily safety, and your quality of sleep. The quality of sleep is so, I really can't stress enough how important that is. Nobody answered me though about that question. Like, how do you guys sleep? Like, if you had to rate your sleep quality from 1 to 10, 10 being I wake up feeling refreshed every night, 0 being I don't sleep ever. What is sleep? Do you, just dogs aside, do you sleep well? I mean, yeah, because I don't know. I didn't look into this at all. I'm curious, like, who's sleeping these days? I mean, and do you sleep better or worse now than you did, a year and a half ago? I don't know that my sleep's really been affected that much. I just haven't slept well for years. So, I think about it a lot. So I want to talk about it. But okay. There are other considerations. And this is where we'll get into a little bit about the myths. So you will hear people say that, like, not to let your dog sleep in your bed. And you all said that your dogs do sleep in your bed. So maybe you haven't heard this, or maybe you heard it and know that it's not true, or don't. Yeah. But a lot of people do. They don't know. And when they end up with behavior problems, it gets blamed on, oh, you know what? I feel bad. I feel guilty. I let my dog sleep in the bed. Is that why we have these issues? No, listen, letting your dog sleep in the bed is not going to cause separation anxiety. Letting your dog sleep in the bed is not going to cause any aggression issues, no resource guarding issues. Letting your dog sleep in the bed is not going to make him think that he is the alpha or dominant or anything like that. It's not going to spoil your dog. Yeah, there's so much, I mean, to be quite frank, there's so much BS floating out there about dogs in general, and especially about letting dogs be in the bed, be on the couch, be in the furniture, walk out the door in front of you, letting dogs do blank. It's usually not the cause of behavior problems. But yeah, so letting your dog share the bed is not going to be the cause of any specific problem. But if there are problems, there are reasons you might want to consider changing sleeping situations. And I'll tell you what a few of those are. So actually, let me talk about the separation anxiety thing first. If your dog has separation anxiety already, letting them sleep in the bed is not going to make it worse. But trying to kick them out might distress them to the point that they can't handle it, and that could make it worse. So yeah, if your dog is suffering from separation anxiety, certainly don't remove them from the bed thinking that's going to help anything. And it's not, yeah, and letting them sleep there in the first place is not going to cause separation anxiety. But let's see. Oh, no, wait. Let me check my notes here real quick. I think I got some things mixed up here. No. Did I just delete a bunch of stuff? Apparently. Okay, well, anyway, so some other common things that can happen are if there is any sort of resource guarding, location guarding issue where your dog is growling at you when you try to get into the bed if they're up there first. Letting that, first of all, it wasn't caused by letting them sleep in the bed, but dogs do value their resources, and that's a perfectly natural way for them to want to express that they don't want to give up that resource. If that's the case, in that scenario, yeah, I might recommend shifting their sleeping location for a while you address the issue separately. And in that sort of situation, I'd recommend teaching your dog another way to teaching them a way for you to ask them to get off the bed without having to physically forcibly remove them, because that's going to put both of you in a precarious situation. And it's super, super simple. I love, one of my favorite things to teach dogs, and it's so easy, so simple, is the hand touch. You guys hear me talk about this all the time, they target your hand with their nose. This is one of the ways that cue becomes really, really handy, is if you need to get them to move off of the bed or off of the couch or something. It gives you a way to ask them, hey, can you touch my hand down here on the floor? They are going to have to jump down off the bed in order to touch your hand. And then you can handle the situation differently than putting yourself into like a physical confrontation. Don't put yourself into a physical confrontation with a dog. That is always, always a bad idea. If a dog is guarding the location of the bed, that might be a situation that I really don't recommend continuing to let them have free access to the bed. And in some cases, it's just, if they're up there first, this will happen. But if you're in the bed first and then invite them up, then it's not a problem. In other cases, you may just want to say, okay, well, it because of the risks, we're not going to share the bed at all. But yeah, anytime there's an aggression problem, definitely reconsider the sleeping structure or sleeping situations in the home. But do know this, that having let them sleep in the bed is not the cause. New comments, let's see. Oh gosh, I just wasn't getting updates. Sorry guys. Okay, Kevin says a 5. Sarah says 4 to 5. Okay, so we're not sleeping that well. Jessie says about half the time I sleep well, so okay. Sarah, oh, interesting. What can you tell me about Christina Grabnickas? Am I saying that right? Yeah, I'm not familiar. Is she a dog expert, sleep expert, both? I'll look her up. Karen says maybe around 5. And for that, most of my problem is because I have sleep apnea. My fur babies are not my sleep problem. Okay, it's good we know that. When Candy sleeps with me or sits in the chair with me, she has to be touching me. Oh, it's so sweet. I mean, and for me, that is the biggest, I think that is the biggest benefit, and it's why a lot of us have chosen to just, we want to be closer to our dogs. It's comfort for us and it's comfort for them, and in a lot of cases, that probably outweighs any of the other stuff that we've talked about. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But let's see. So even if it's not a location guarding behavior issue that happens with some dogs, if they are woken up from a deep sleep, their immediate instinct is they startle and they go to snap or bite. If you've got a dog like that, might want to consider not sharing the bed anymore, because we don't know what we're doing in our sleep. Like I mentioned, I don't think I move that much. Like a lot of times I wake up in the same position I fell asleep in, but we don't really know. And if we are kicking our dog, people have been bitten that way, and in some cases it can be serious. But again, if you've got any of these behavior issues, you're going to know about them and be able to make a better decision for yourself. But know that they can happen. I just want to, like, my main concern here is I just want everybody to know that, like, sharing the bed's not going to be the cause of any of these problems. Christina says our Saint Bernard will lay down on us for a bit, but he gets too hot and prefers to sleep. Did you mean on you or on the bed? Prefers to sleep on the bathroom floor. That's so funny that you said that, because I was talking to someone earlier today, and I mentioned how like Dizzy is, you know, informally my emotional support animal. And so when I need some physical comfort during the day, like, I'll just lay on the floor, and he does that. He'll like lay on top of me, and it's great. On us, yeah, awesome. Oh, and a Saint Bernard, like, that's really cool. Like, because that weight, like, it's like even better than a weighted blanket. Anybody use a weighted blanket here? I got one, and it was like, it's nice, but then having to like carry it and move it around, like, it's so much more handy to just have like your living weighted blanket who can just like come and lay on top of you. I like it. I think it's great. 120-pound weighted blanket. Yeah, I mean, that's another reason. I think my weighted blanket is like maybe 15 or 20 pounds. 120 pounds is a heck of a lot better. I'll take, what is Dizzy? Dizzy gained 3 pounds over the winter. Bad, Jennifer. But he's lost like 1.5 pounds of it. So I think he's like just under 35 now. Just still, you know, that's a substantial, he's no 120 pounds. Oh God, I'm so jealous now. Like, that it sounds so good. But it's that bedtime routine. I love our bedtime routine is sort of similar. Well, yeah, Dizzy is like, he likes to be in the bed, but he doesn't like to be next to me, which is fine. I'm not going to take it too personally, because he'll wake up in the morning and the first thing he wants to do is cuddle. But I love that, like, everybody and their dogs, like, you develop these little routines, these little habits, and they're so unique to your relationship. And it's one of the I love hearing about, like, what people do with their dogs. Like, this is not like a normal thing that people talk about on a daily basis, but I think it's so cute and so interesting to hear what everybody else's routines are. So if you want to share, you know where to put them, guys. Until I get some more of those fun little stories, I will just say this, like, hopefully you've gathered already that, like, I don't think there's a right answer to the should you let your dog share your bed or should you not. Like, there's whatever information you counter, this is one situation that comes down to what's right for you, what works for you and your dog. There are a few situations where, as in my role as a professional or behavior counselor, that I would just say, maybe it's not the right time or the right dog or the right situation for that. And those basically, to summarize, are when the dog is not house trained, or older and maybe losing bladder control. If you've got a severe allergy issue that whether it's to dogs or things that they might be tracking in, if you are a particularly light sleeper, then that in combination with if your dog moves a lot in the night, or if you've got any sort of aggression or startling awake aggression from the dog, that's going to be an issue. And I'll add one final one, and that's if you get a new dog. And here's why. I don't recommend, like, if you want to sleep with your dog, I don't care. Totally up to you. But my personal recommendation is that anytime you bring home a new dog, that you don't have them sleep in the bed right away, simply for the reason that it's so much harder to take away privileges than it is to give them. And whatever a dog learns first, tends to be it's default is not really the word I'm looking for. But if they come home and they learn that, like, oh, okay, this is the dog bed where I sleep, or this is the room where I sleep, or, if whatever they learn first, they can always go back to that. But if they are immediately granted bed privileges and you ever want to, things change and you decide, you know what, we really don't want the dog in the bed anymore, it's a lot harder to have a dog transition out than it is to, like, teach them they can sleep elsewhere first and then let them in the bed, and that's totally fine, because then you can always go back, and it's going to be just that much easier than if they'd never learned that, like, they don't sleep in the bed sometimes. And this is where my planning, I'm a planner. I'm always, I live in the future, guys. I can't, like, when they say you really should just live in the present and be in the moment and all these nights, like, no, I'm constantly like, well, what about this? So this is just know that's the place that this is coming from. But things happen, sometimes if you're single and you've been doing this with your dog and you've got a new partner who doesn't like dogs in the bed, like, I don't know, maybe that relationship shouldn't work out anyway, but if it does, or if you really like this person and you're willing to have the dog sleep elsewhere, it'll help your dog if they knew they could sleep other places and everything would still be cool. New relationship is one thing, but how about babies? Anybody planning on a family, if you are going to be having your baby sleep in the same bedroom, or I don't know if people are having babies sleep in the same bed these days, but even in the same room, sometimes you may not want to have the dog in their room. And like I said, having them transition out it can be hard on the dog. So it's another reason why it's good to just have them have learned first that sleeping elsewhere is fine. And another way that you can help them is start that transition really early. Don't, wait until the baby's arrived and then be like, okay, sorry, Fido, you're out now. Baby's here. Not going to help the relationship with the baby. But yeah, changing habits is hard for dogs. And so as things are changing, as you're preparing all these other things for a new family member, you can help your dog by starting these transitions way early, months early. So what else could change that you don't, where it would be harder for your dog to adjust? I don't know, if you got a new mattress, like, people, anything could change. The point is, when you bring a new dog home, it's so much easier for them to learn the lesser of any options, but in sleeping options, easier for them to learn it's okay to sleep not in your bed first, and then afterwards let them have free roam. But so what happens if you do decide you don't want to have the dog in the bed? The best, like, my top piece of advice is really to offer them options that are as good as you possibly can, high quality options. Get the expensive dog bed, get the memory foam dog bed. A lot of dogs prefer beds that have the bolsters around the side versus just the flat ones. But offer them really, really highly attractive sleeping options. If you want to help them to choose other places to sleep, offer them a choice worth choosing, and not just one. It might sound excessive, but dogs having a choice, a choice of sleeping options, but being able to choose more things in their life, it's good for them. We make all of the choices for our dogs. We choose, when and where they potty. We choose what they eat and how much and when they eat and who they play with and when and how often they get to play. We make every little choice for the dog. And as adult sentient beings, they thrive more when they are given more control over their circumstances, and we can do this without letting our dogs, rule our lives and become, without, oh God, I'm trying to say this without using any of the hooey language, but without letting them, run the household. We can offer them little choices like, here, you've got 3 beds to choose from. They're going to be there. You can sleep wherever you want on any given night. It's just a nice little way that it provides more choice for them. And if you've offered them enough attractive enough options, then they're going to have an easier time transitioning out from sleeping in your bed. The dog who, like, I got to sleep with mom and dad forever, and then the baby came along, and all of a sudden I got kicked out, and all I have is the cold floor. Like, some of our dogs, like our Saint Bernards, sometimes choose the cold floor. That's fine, but not all dogs would prefer that. And so for those dogs, they need other options. I have been criticized for, spoiling dogs, or they didn't say it so nicely, but like the way I see it is I'm just being considerate and thoughtful of their needs. But I receive criticism for that, and I don't feel bad about it. I think it is the right choice. But I want to share that with you, because if you are at all feeling guilty, or if anyone has criticized you, sometimes this comes from friends and family members, who maybe aren't dog owners, and they don't quite get it. That can sometimes get to us, and I want to give you full permission to spoil the heck out of your dog. Get them the fancy bed, and don't feel bad about it. Because not only is it just a nice thing to do, but like it can help you with like managing behavior and household, situations. It's a good thing to do all around. So yeah, spoil that dog. It's okay. And yeah. So offer them options. That is the best piece of advice. And then if necessary, over time, have them sleep elsewhere more often. Like I said, teach them the touch cue or off cue, to have them voluntarily get off of the bed when you need them to. Show them the new sleeping areas. You can use, there are synthetic pheromones that help some dogs to be drawn to a certain space if it feels calming for them. Adaptil's a good brand. Sometimes you can spray something like that on a bed to make it more attractive. You can also spend time with them on that surface during the day, so that their scent is already on it. That can be helpful as well. You can, if it's not too traumatic for your dog, you can also just, close the door. Some dogs, they're like, okay, they're not going to fight it if you just like let them know that, okay, you're going to sleep here tonight, and then keep the door closed so you don't have to have this ongoing battle. Or if they're crate trained, if they're comfortable in a crate, you can start by having them sleep in the crate next to your bed so that they still get to feel your presence, your warmth, and have your scent as they get used to sleeping off of the bed. And then you can move the crate as they are comfortable. I don't recommend crates for dogs who are not crate trained, or who are going to panic and whine and cry, because that's going to be, you're not going to get as much sleep, and neither will your dog. It's going to be distressing for everyone, but for some dogs, that can be a nice way to help transition them. But yeah, there are ways of helping your dog find other places to sleep where they end up happy, you end up happy. But really, at the end of the day, my main message here is like, there's no right or wrong. The choice is totally yours. It's what is right for you and your dog. My role here is to provide food for thought. And so, yeah. Anybody, like, I think a lot of you did share already that you are sharing the bed with your dog. Did anybody see this who chooses not to share the bed with the dog? I'm curious to get perspective, the other side. We got to talk to some people who choose not to. I want to know why. Was it a deliberate choice? So let me know if you care to share your thoughts. Otherwise, thanks for joining, guys. It's always a pleasure to see you. Just a reminder that Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific, we're going to have a really great interview with a guest who's going to talk to us about service dogs and service dog training. It's going to be really, really interesting. We've got our 4 o'clock stream on Friday. And then after that, schedule is changing drastically. We're going to be doing one live stream a week. It's going to be Thursday mornings at 11 a.m. So I just want to let everybody know that now. So I hope to see you there. Thank you for joining tonight. If you haven't already, it really helps me out if you hit the little red subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook, you can like or follow me there. But thanks again. Thanks again for joining me, guys. And I hope to see you on Wednesday. All right. Bye-bye.